Welcome back to Snetterton, where under darkening skies, but no real sign of rain, we've got our final race of the 2024 season for the Porsche Club Championship with Pirelli and the Porsche Am Championship heading onto the circuit. This was originally scheduled to be a 20-minute race, but because delay in the preceding race, which was for the Woods Food Services Porsche Boxster Championship, and there was a red flag in that, so there was a long delay just whilst we cleared up the circuit with a mixture of cars and coolant and oil that had been deposited. So this is now going to be a 20-minute race rather than the original 25 that was scheduled. But it will still conclude the season. It will still be round 14 of the championship, and this is based on the second quickest times that were set in qualifying this morning. Off they head on their formation lap. The front row of the grid is exactly the same as it was earlier on today, which means that it is still a family affair on both rows 1 and row 2 of the grid, because it's the McAleer family that lock out the front row and the Cayley family that rock out the second row. Let's guide you through the grid then, the way they line up for the final race of the 2024 championship season. Mark McAleer starts from pole position once more, and alongside him is his son Jake McAleer, who claimed the win earlier on today. Second row of the grid is number 11 James Cayley alongside Bill Cayley on row number 2. Row 3 of the grid is Simon Clark, who leads the championship coming into this race by 40 points exactly on drop scores taken into account from the man who starts from pole position. But Simon Clark has got Christian Walker for company on that third row of the grid, and row 4 of the grid is Jim Bryan and Chris Dyer that line up on row number 4. The fifth row of the grid sees Ed Hayes and Julian Morris together, and then after that there will be a couple of rows gap on the grid that we see in front of us, not on the graphic, but the sixth row of the grid is the start of the Am category. Oliver Chatham and Darren Lebet line up on the sixth row of the grid, the first row that we've got in reality for the Ams. The second row for the Ams, which is round row 7 overall, Andrew Porter and Angus Archer. And then the next row, which will be row number 8, is where we see Brian Richardson and Jason Brown. Jessica Wilkinson is next up on the next row of the grid, which will be row number 9 of the grid, at the wheel of the number 25 car. And Carl Hazelton, the number 24 car, will go off the very back of the grid with a 10-second penalty, as he did earlier on today, because the car was found to be a little bit underweight after qualifying. So all of his qualifying times were removed, and therefore both race 1 and race 2 you have to start off the back of the grid. So let's see what happens in this one. It's all up for grabs in terms of the main club championship. As we say, it is, if you take drop scores into account, then Simon Clark, who drives the number 23 car, that's the green and white car, with the grey flashes to it, you can just see on your screen, starts 5th. He is on 403 points if you drop your 2 worst scores in the championship, whereas if Mark McAleer drops his 2 worst scores, he is on 363. Jake McAleer is on 371 actually, so he would move up to 2nd in the championship. It's difficult to see on the information that's arrived with me. So yeah, Jake would move up to 2nd in the championship as a result of that win earlier on, and Mark drops to 3rd in the championship. And in the Am category, it is Angus Archer on 354 as a drop score, Darren Lebet on 335 as a drop score, Jason Brown on 323 as a drop score. So it's all quite close in the Am categorisation, but Jason Brown has had not a great day so far, didn't qualify well, had a spin at the first corner as well in the race earlier on today, so he has got a bit more work to do. Nice to see that number 74 has made it out, Jim Bryan, who's a retiree in the race that we had earlier on today, so all is well with his car. So the team have gone to work and sorted out whatever the problem was with the 996 earlier on today that retired on the run up towards Hamilton, wasn't it, where he had to pull the car off onto the left-hand side of the circuit. So the silver car with this number 14, so they're very similar liveries. It's silver, black and blue for Mark McAleer, but it's black, silver and blue for Jake McAleer. So it's the silver fronted car of Mark McAleer on pole, the black fronted car of Jake McAleer alongside. It is green and cream for James Cayley alongside green and gold for Bill Cayley is the way to tell those two apart. And it's grey and light green and white for Simon Clark alongside the black and blue and yellow car of Christian Walker. So final position just coming up onto the grid now. I'm not sure we have got Carl Hazelton's car at the tail end of the field, so don't think we're going to have a 10-second delayed starter unless he opts to start from the pit lane. We'll wait and see. Red lights are on, and hopefully for the final time today, they go out. Now we get the race underway. Both front row men match each other for pace, but it's a brilliant start from Bill Cayley from row number 2 of the grid. The Cayman really launched off the line beautifully well there, but is he going to be able to do anything with it? I'm not entirely sure he is. Up towards Ritchie's they'll go. They're all squeezing each other, and Jake McAleer has a Cayley to one side of him. He has a Cayley to the other. He gets very squirrely coming out of the corner, gathers up the moment, and also covers up the move that was coming from Simon Clark. But it is Mark McAleer that leads the way. It is going to be Bill Cayley in second place, James Cayley there in third place, and Jake McAleer, who didn't have a poor start but just sort of got boxed in a little bit, didn't he, as they went round through Ritchie's corner. Avoided all of the contact because it was very close between himself and Jim Cayley to one side, Bill Cayley to the other. He's there in fourth position and trying to make a little bit of progress up towards the braking area. For Agostini they will go, and braking very, very, very late is Christian Walker at the wheel of his Cayman. He's now up into fourth place, and Jake McAleer has dropped down into fifth by the look of things, so it's not been a brilliant start from him. His father, Mark McAleer, leads the way as he picks his way out of Hamilton and in towards the braking area for Oggies for the first time. Everybody is safely through the first half a lap. There's Chris Dyer, who at the wheel of one of the newer shapes Caymans finished on the podium earlier on today. It's the first time we've seen the newer shape Cayman finish on the podium so far this year, which is the new car that was introduced into the championship as it continually evolves earlier on this season. So down the Bentley Straight for the first time. Mark McAleer, the 997, leads the way. There's a few windscreen wipers coming on as they head down to the bottom of the Bentley Straight, which is slightly concerning. It is starting to rain down at that section of the circuit. The rain was forecast to start about 7, but clearly it's just come in a little bit earlier as it's blown in on the breeze here. So that's what's causing the drivers to have to apply the windscreen wipers. And of course, depending on how they've set the cars up, they might have set them up assuming full dry conditions. So if it does deteriorate, that could make things very, very interesting indeed. Mark McAleer leads the way. He has got Bill Cayley right with him in second place. James Cayley there in third place. Christian Walker's fourth at the moment in the blue and the black car with the yellow flashes to it as they head over the start-finish line to complete lap number 1 in this race. The top 3 with a little bit of a gap between themselves and the cars that are there in 4th and 5th positions. But up towards Ritchie's corner to conclude the first lap of the race, we see Christian Walker take a nice tight line in towards Ritchie's corner, but that could offer up a possibility for Jake McAleer. And we might have here James Cayley trying to get up the inside of Bill Cayley. Are we in the wet? Yeah, the 997 sneaks through and ahead of the Cayman. Cayman family at the Cayley family side by side going into the corner, side by side coming out of the corner. And it looks like Bill is just about, I think, going to hang on to the place. More and more wipers going as the spots of rain continue to fall here at Snetterton. What has been a very dry weekend considering the time of year that we're at. And those lights are looking rather bright on the cars as well as the lux level drops. But up towards Agostini, lap number 2. Squabbles are still on. It's about 7 cars, isn't it, for the lead of the race? Yeah, Chris Dyer is at the tail end of the train before we see any daylight, and he's there in 7th place. Jim Bryan is in 8th place. But Mark McAleer leading the way at the moment. Dips a toe onto the curb area and deposits a load of dust up into the sky. So hard is he pushing. But he needs to keep pushing hard because he lost ground earlier on. It was suspension issues with his car. Big, big, big wiggle for the car of Christian Walker there coming through Williams and onto the Bentley Straight. You can see the tail end of the car wasn't compliant with his input into the steering of it. You can see nearly all of the cars now with their wipers on coming down through that section of the circuit. Mark McAleer leads the way. Bill Cayley in 2nd place. James Cayley there in 3rd place. You can see them skipping around at the moment. Jake McAleer's back up into 4th place now with the result of that wiggly moment from Christian Walker at the start of the Bentley Straight. And then almost Bill Cayley into the back of Mark McAleer as they went in towards the bomb hole. And Christian Walker off onto the grass. Got caught out on the wet tarmac there at that part of the circuit. Remember, all of these cars are on slick tyres. It is raining out there, and right around the outside goes Bill Cayley to pick up the lead of the race at Coram. It's also a spin, and that is a spin for Andrew Porter. So that's one of the AM-class cars that's now got caught out. So worsening conditions over the start-finish line now come, and this is going to make things very, very interesting indeed for the lead of the race. You can see how much the conditions have deteriorated. You can see the wet patches that are there on the road now. Bill Cayley sideways going in towards Ritchie's corner, gathers up the moment with a big chunk of opposite lock to make sure that he got the car back where he needed it to be. But that was a bit of a scary moment there, and now it looks as though Mark McAleer is going to lose a further place here as James Cayley sneaks his way through. Our champion-elect, which is Simon Clark, is there in 6th position at the moment, but I don't think you can take anything for granted in these deteriorating conditions. Cars on slick tyres, pushing hard, everybody moving around, one small mistake and you're off. But Bill Cayley is, at the moment, mastering the conditions at this stage. In towards the braking area at Agostini they'll go. Bill Cayley leads James Cayley, Mark McAleer, and then Simon Clark dives up the inside of Jake McAleer. We've got another car off, and that's the number 69 car, which is Oliver Chatham, has just gone off. He had a good run in the AM category earlier on. We've also got another car I've just seen spin absolutely sideways through what is Palmer, and I think with the conditions worsening, I'm afraid the safety car is being scrambled actually. So for the moment the race continuing out on circuit, but finally the drivers then get to a point where they can see the yellow flags being waved at the marshals posts and the safety car boards coming out. So that's all to do with the deteriorating conditions out there at the moment. Cars on slick tyres, and we might have one or two maybe that have strewn themselves around the circuit that we've not quite picked up on as yet. So everybody now just easing off their pace. One thing I can tell you is that Bill Cayley leads the way. The BMW electric safety car is positioned ready to pick them up. And you can see just how much the moisture has appeared on the tarmac, and that has happened very, very quickly indeed. Now, had there not have been the delay in the earlier race, I think we'd have got through this one with it all being dry, but that is not the case now. You can see out on circuit there, the sun is disappearing and has long gone. The headlamp's shining on the tarmac. You can now see it's wet, and every time a car heads around a corner you can see the patch it's leaving on the tarmac. So what are the officials going to do with this one, because the cars are all circulating around the track on slick tyres. The grey skies, if anything, probably look worse from the direction that the wind is blowing in, so I'm not sure we're going to see a great deal of improvement in the weather. I'm also not sure why the safety car is out there. Is it out there because of the worsening conditions, or is it out there because we have had an incident that we haven't picked up on as yet? Bill Cayley, I think, was almost quite surprised as to how wet it was when he was trying to get on the brakes to slow up to make sure that he didn't catch the safety car. And for a split second, I did think, surely not, please, no, we can't. One car that's recovering after his spin, getting caught out, was Christian Walker's. Let me just guide you through then the way that they are at the moment whilst we are under safety car here at Snetterton. Bill Cayley, number 80 in the Cayman, leads the way. The 997 of James Cayley is there in 2nd place. Mark McAleer, number 14, is there in 3rd place. And 4th place is the champion-elect, Simon Clark, potentially on for another championship in the Porsche Club GB. Jake McAleer slithered his way down to 6th when the safety car came out. Jake McAleer slithered his way down to 5th when the safety car came out. 6th place should be the number 74 car, which will be Jim Bryan, who is there in 6th position. I'm just waiting for confirmation. Yes, I can see that he's there in 6th position still. 7th place is going to be Chris Dyer, and 8th place is going to be the number 10 car, which is the black and light green car of Julian Morris. Ed Hayes will be next up in 9th position. Christian Walker, after his slithery moment and going off the circuit at the bomb hole, the number 7 car is in 10th place. And in 11th place, it's car number 52, which is Darren Lebet at the moment, who is leading the AM category from Oliver Chatham, who is 12th and 2nd in the AM category. 3rd in the AM category is 56, will be Jason Brown. And 4th in the AM category is the leader of the AM Championship at this stage, which is going to be Angus Archer. Now, Angus Archer leads the AM category by 19 championship points. And at the moment, if he finishes 4th in the AM, as we've had a spin also under safety car for Ed Hayes, by the look of things, who's got caught out, just going to show how tricky it is. If Angus Archer finishes 4th in the AM category, that would give him 16 championship points, which would mean that he would actually drop that as a score, and no longer would be dropping 2 lots of 25 championship points. So it's that bizarre time of year where actually a poor result actually means that you score more championship points, because, you know, if you finish lower here, you just discount the fact that this is a race you're not going to score the points in, but you'll gain the points back from another race that otherwise you were dropping. So I think that still probably helps Angus Archer in terms of his championship aspirations. Whereas for Darren Lebet, he might be leading the category, which will give him 25 championship points, plus the extra points for numbers of starters in the class, for which we have got 5 starters in this class, so that would put him on 30 championship points, let's say. And what would he drop? He would drop a 25 but gain a 30, so he'd close up by 5, but Angus Archer would gain probably an extra 9 because he's no longer dropping such a high score. So I think it's still mathematically Angus Archer's to lose in terms of the AM category. It's a very difficult dynamic to try and work out on the fly whilst the race is taking place, but I think it's still looking at the moment as though Club Championship will go the way of Simon Clark if they stay as they are. AM Championship will go the way of Angus Archer if they stay where they are. So 9 minutes to go. No obvious signs of a car stranded out on circuit that have brought about the safety car. At the time I did think it was the deterioration of the conditions that have brought it about, and that is still the case. Now from my commentary box it is very difficult to see how much rain is falling, because nothing, if I look at my windows, there is no rain on the windows. It's such fine rain that it's just not dropping onto the windows of the commentary box. It's just making it very difficult out there on circuit. And the difficulty is of course behind the safety car on slick tyres you are losing tyre temperature. To get the race back underway you need that tyre temperature on the slicks, and I'm just not quite sure how much racing we're going to get in on this one. You know, we had a very unfortunate end to the 2023 championship here at Snetterton with the Porsche Club. We didn't actually get to run it last year, and that was because very bizarrely there was a localised power cut. It wasn't just at Snetterton circuit, it was the local area that was out. There was a substation I think exploded, and it meant that there was a power outage generally in the area. Now most circuits have an interrupted power supply which allows race control to still operate, but that interrupted power supply is batteries which kick in as and when the mains go off, and it only lasts for a period of time. So the race prior to Porsche Club finished, but then we ran out of batteries and couldn't conclude our 2023 championship season, which was a very bizarre set of circumstances. We've got another strange set of circumstances here with the Rangers coming in as the cars were on their slick tyres. Out comes the safety car, and in what is already a shortened race of 20 minutes rather than the 25, we've now only got 7.5 left. And tyre temperature on a cold day, on an autumn day, with rain falling and a dampening track, does make it a very, very difficult decision for race control as to what they may wish to do in this one. Now, if the safety car speeds up a little bit, then the cars behind can build a bit more temperature in the tyres. But if the rain continues to fall, you're never going to get the temperature in the tyres. So I simply don't know as to what the outcome of this one might be. Hopefully it's not a second year where we've got, you know, a frustrating end, but for nobody's fault, just Mother Nature, frustrating end to the championship season once more. Bill Cayley leading the way from James Cayley, the 2 Trofeo Motorsport cars. And what are they going to do this time? The lights were still on the safety car, so we're going to get another lap behind the safety car. No indication yet that the safety car will be peeling in. The first of the indications we will get, if it's not a message from race control, it will be the lights being extinguished on that BMW safety car, but it's taking the car 3 minutes to do a lap, which means that by the time it comes over the start finish line next time round, there's only going to be about 3.5 minutes left. So if it doesn't come into the pit lane, then we're probably only going to get at best 1 racing lap. If it does come in, we might just squeeze 2 out, but we're not going to get much more than that, I'm afraid. And looking at the camera up there at the Wilson hairpin, you can see the rain, the fine rain on the camera. It does not look good, does it, up at that section of the circuit? So Bill Cayley from James Cayley, that's the order at the moment. For Bill Cayley, he's already had 1 win so far this year. That came in the first of the races at Anglesey, which was on the 13th of July. James Cayley so far this year has not had a win. In fact, the podiums have been difficult to come by for James. He's been regular top 6 finisher. He's had a couple of thirds. He was 4th earlier on today, which I think means that's his 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th, 6th, 4th place so far this year for James Cayley. But he is potentially, at the moment, in 2nd place, and that would be his best result of the season, albeit a good chunk of it done under safety car. Darren Lebet still continuing to lead the AM category, which would be a good result for him, but would still mean he would come up short compared to the championship tally that Angus Archer is going to accumulate. And it does look as though the main Porsche Championship with Pirelli is going to go yet again in the direction of the number 23 car of Simon Clark. Well, the safety car is slowing ever more by the look of things. I thought it might up its pace if it was coming in, but it looks as though it's going even slower as it heads round through Williams. The skies are darkening ever more. There's more splashes of rain on the camera. And with 4.5 minutes to go, it's taken the best part of nearly a minute and a bit to do this lap. And I think I've just seen, yeah, red flags are coming out, I'm afraid. And it is a 20-minute race. We need to get to 75% of distance to call it a result. And the red flags come out. 4.5 minutes remaining. So that is past 75% distance. So I do think it is another just frustrating end to the championship season for the Porsche Club Championship with Pirelli in the AM Championship. They didn't have much luck last year with the power cut here at Snetterton, and it looks as though it's going to be another frustrating end to their 2024 championship season with the red flags coming out, and that will call, I think, subject to official confirmation, that will call an end to the results. That's not been confirmed as yet. That's just my understanding of the Motorsport UK regulations, and the earliest at which you can call a race result and award full championship points would be 75% of it, and that is now where we are at. So they could, if they wish, declare a result, and I think they'll probably have to, because the skies are darkening, conditions aren't going to improve. There's another race, a supporting race, that needs to head to the circuit later on, and that being the case, it looks as though Simon Clark, 4th place overall, would be enough for him to secure the main Porsche Club with Pirelli Championship. And I think that Angus Archer, therefore, is going to be the AM champion for this year. If I've got the maths right, the number 70 car might have been 14th in the race, but I think that will be enough for him to secure the title. But that's not the way we wanted it to happen, really. We wanted it to be fought out, ideally, over the full 25 minutes, or at least the shortened duration of 20 minutes. But Mother Nature doing its best to spoil the party, I'm afraid. But for Bill Cayley, then he'll be pleased that it's a win as far as the results are concerned, as far as the championship points are concerned, as far as the gathering up of trophies and bottles of champagne or Prosecco and garlands are concerned. It's going to be a win that will be heading in his direction. So all of the cars heading in towards the pit lane, and that is going to bring down the curtain on another championship season, the 40th championship season for Porsche Club GB. The first ever race here, April 1984, and the championship still continues to grow stronger and stronger and stronger. It always evolves as well. That's what I love about this championship. You know, we've seen the likes of the, you know, the 993s introduced, and originally the 911s, and then you started to see all the iterations of the 993s, the 996s, the 997s. No doubt at some point we'll have the latest sort of 991s coming into the championship at some stage, because it never ever stands still, the Porsche Club Championship. So the cars working their way in towards the pit lane, and I think shortly, yeah, the checkered flag has been shown. We can confirm the results for you. Not the race we wanted, but it's the one we got, I'm afraid, with the rain causing problems, and the right decision to make sure that nobody goes home with a damaged car, and everybody goes home to race another day. Bill Cayley claims the win from James Cayley in 2nd place, with Mark McAleer there in 3rd, and Simon Clark, subject to official confirmation, I think, in 4th. That's enough for the championship. James McAleer was 5th, ahead of Jim Bryan there in 6th place, and Chris Dyer was 7th. It was going to be, next up is the number 10 car, which is Julian Morris, who was there in 8th place. He was there in 8th place. 9th place will go the way of Christian Walker. And Darren Lebet will win the AM class in that race, finishing in what was 10th position. Oliver Chatham was next up in 11th. Ed Hayes was there in 12th place. Then it was going to be Jason Brown, with Angus Archer, I think, in 14th place. That's sufficient for him to claim the AM Championship for this year. And the final car over the start-finish line to take the checkered flag was Andrew Porter. But that's it, I'm afraid. That's not quite the race that we wanted to conclude our season with, but with the worsening conditions, it was a difficult decision, but the only decision that could be made by race control. So that way, all the cars go home in one piece, all of the drivers go home in one piece, and we can do it all again in 2025. So thanks for joining us for any of the racing that you've seen from the Porsche Club GB Championships over the course of 2024. Hopefully we'll catch you again next year in 2025. Goodbye.